Good morning and welcome to Viewpoint, your personalities, politicians, and perspectives. We're going to leave the politician out of that equation this morning. We're going to sit here and be nice to one another. And by the way, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. And tell you the truth, I went blank this morning. When I passed Glendale, I wanted to go in there and stop at the tap, and you wouldn't let me. So I wanted to sharpen up my memory bank. I'm without a kudo. Do you have a kudo this morning, my dear?
Oh, you know...
Caught her flat-footed.
Yeah, you did catch me flat-footed, and I'm ashamed to admit that, because I'll tell you what, here we are right in the breadbasket of the U.S. of A., and we should have more kudos than Carter's Got Pills, and I can't tell you one off the top of my head.
Oh, I'll bring you one right now.
Okay, do it.
Our guest this morning, to whom you're going to introduce in a couple of seconds here, kind enough to give us some time this morning. We kind of got caught with our shorts down, so to speak. And we went to the well and came up with an excellent guest. So go right ahead and introduce this young man.
Well, yes, I would be glad to. Dave Irwin, Vice President at the Heartland Bank, known better to you as the State Bank of Lincoln, I dare say, right?
That's correct.
I'm sure people still revert to that name all the time.
They do. It's a little bit confusing to some people. Our name is State Bank of Lincoln, a division of Heartland Bank and Trust, and so the merger happened just a little over a year ago right now. We were always sister banks. We were kind of their little sister, if you will, but all our board members, a lot of the board members were the same, and the same family owned, the Drake family, who's owned the bank for many, many years, also owned Heartland Bank and Trust, so it made sense from a economic perspective and for a lot of other reasons for them to merge the banks, and so the State Bank of Lincoln's had a really respected name over the years, and so I think that's why they kept State Bank of Lincoln on the buildings here, but we are a division of Heartland Bank and Trust.
Well, you know, that's the way of the world anymore.
That's right.
Yeah, we consolidate and consolidate. One day we'll all be one of something.
That's right.
Boys or girls.
Mr. Irwin, the flash of Beeson, Illinois. And I think of Beeson, I think of the name Irwin, and I think of also the Randolph. Two well-known, established names over there in the Beeson area. And if you needed a favor, you just went to an Irwin or a Randolph, and they'd see if they could help you out a little bit. Speaking of helping out, Dave is the farm manager for the Heartland Bank and Trust, which is a very, very responsible job. What's the average farm rent for somebody who's taking over a lease, David?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a loaded question because there's so many different things that go into that. The type of the soil, the productivity of the soil. There's PI indexes are a big thing in the farming world. That stands for productivity index. So all of the soils have their own productivity indexes, and the higher the productivity index, relatively speaking, you would think that the higher the cash rent ought to be. So, it's all over the board.
Grab
really.
A figure. Just grab an average figure for rent.
I would say $3.25 per acre, $325 per acre. If you'd asked me that question 3 years ago, it would have been a lot less than that. Mm-hmm. But we're just coming off a very good year with very good prices and very good yields. It was kind of a perfect storm for the farmers in 2021 because the grain prices, didn't really start taking off until a year ago right now. They were starting to creep up during the fall and late winter, but a year ago right now is when they really started taking off. And so the landowners had already set cash rents for the most part, most likely. Mm-hmm. The fertilizer and the chemical dealers and the seed dealers already had their prices in mind or established at that time last year and a year ago. So they were still at some what I would, in my opinion, would call some reasonable levels. And then all of a sudden the prices went nuts. The farmers had a good year, both price-wise and yield-wise. And so it was a good year for them last year. And now we fast forward to this year, and the seed guy, the chemical guy, the fertilizer guy, and the landowner all know that those guys made some money, and so they, I'm not criticizing. I'm not criticizing any of them because
supply and demand.
Yeah, it is, and the chemical and fertilizer guys, everybody wants to blame them, but I'll come to their defense a little bit. It's getting passed on to them from up above, so they have to make some margins. Everybody's got to make some margins, and we all want everybody to stay in business, and everybody's got to make a little money to do that.
But the farmer's the greatest gambler in the world.
That's the number one form of gambling, I'll guarantee it. I've always said, if you think you're a gambler and you really want to gamble, then join the farming community, because there's a lot on the line, a lot of money out there in these fields that you drive by and take for granted every day. The people that aren't in the farming community have no idea how much money's laying out there in those plants and the fertilizer to grow them and everything else it takes to make the farming world work.
Off air, I just asked Mr. Irwin a question about real estate prices as far as farmland is concerned, and he came up with a figure of $12,600 an acre at the last farm sale that he's familiar with.
16.5.
I missed it by $4,000 an acre.
Yeah, you were off
16.5.
Yeah,
he was having a sale.
Yeah.
Pull up your shorts, folks. That'll make you scratch a lot. Well, in any event, we can sit here and farm all morning, or we can go down to the Glendale elevator and sit there and have coffee with those boys and have just as much fun. Let's go to the Logan County Fair. That's kind of the real reason we brought Mr. Irwin aboard. I'm probably one of few left who sold programs out there for 10 cents a program and got 2 cents for my own self. So I'm an entrepreneur.
You bet.
Let me say this about the old boys. When they started that fair in 1937, I think it was, Dave, they were smart because of the way they put that fair on the calendar. They booked our fair for just a week ahead of the state fair, and that enabled them to draw a lot of people who were going to a show at the state fair, and exhibitors and people who sold Coke and French fries and so forth. This was a good stop. This was a kind of a tune-up stop for them. So back in 1937, that was a big deal. And in those days, we had what was known as the Society, if you please, the Society Horse Show. Mm-hmm. And all the men dressed up, and we went out there and sat in those boxes alongside that track. Got dirty at night, and the dry cleaners loved that because they had to get their suits in the next day. But in any event, it was a great time. And the old boys who brought that fair back did a great thing for the Logan County community. And here we are, 2022. And it's still going. Quite
a ways down the road and still going. So,
and one of Dave's responsibilities is he books in the acts, which he used to have in front of the grandstand. You'll never book an act in like Dave Merrifield. Does that name register with you at all?
Yeah.
Dave Merrifield, Jim, and listeners, both of you listeners out there, did a very unique trapeze act, in that his trapeze was suspended from a helicopter, and without the benefit of net and or attached rope, he would go up in front of the grandstand, and the helicopter would pass back in front of the grandstand, and Dave Merrifield did his trapeze acts, and it was really something to watch.
Yeah.
And I got to know Dave through Jack Bushell, who had your job at that time. Mm-hmm. And Dave booked in the bookings, and so Dave Merrifield's pilot had a birthday one week, and Gene and I were out in Forest Hills at the time, and we had a birthday party on a Saturday night for Dave Merrifield's pilot. And the next Sunday, the next day, he took me out in his helicopter and gave me a nice ride around the county. And that was really a fun thing to do.
That would have been fun.
Yeah. So booking then was a heck of a lot different than booking today. I suppose somebody that you had to pay $500 for then would be half what today?
5,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just think of that. Yeah.
Are you talking about the act or the person that you have to pay to book them for you?
Well, yeah, there's the other thing. Now,
all of the above.
The one
that's
I was
a pretty
talking
sophisticated process, booking an act for a county fair.
Yeah.
You just don't get Joe Smith off the street corner. You can't bring him into Alvy's drugstore and say you're going to do this.
That's true. Yeah, I was lucky enough about 14 years ago to be introduced to Chris Hesse. He is a representative of a variety of attractions. They're out of Zanesville, Ohio. And so I would refer to Chris as my promoter. But he really is my liaison between me and Nashville is where most of the acts are all booked out of, whether it's rock and roll or country music or rap or gospel or whatever it is. There are three main booking agents, and they're all located out of Nashville. So Chris is my liaison between Logan County Fair and Nashville. He's got the inside track. His company's got the inside track. They've been doing it for a lot of years, and he is the one that advises me. He provides me with a list. I've been dealing with Chris and have forged a relationship with him now over the last 14 years, and it's a friendship now. And so he knows about what my budget is and what I'm looking for. And he provides me with a list every year. About as soon as the fair's over with, I'm starting back in again for the next year. Sure. And so he gives me a list of entertainers, the names, the prices, and then we go from there. And then it's a rat race.
And then it's a crapshoot because you're not sure. You just hope that what you're booking, whoever you're booking, is going to be a draw here at Logan County.
Well, not only that, it's a crapshoot way before what you mentioned because we're submitting offers on acts that we don't know where they're going to be that time of year. We don't even know if they're going to be in the Midwest. We don't know if they're going to be available. We don't know if they're going to be out on tour with somebody else. There's been years where I've been 7, 8, 9 offers deep before I get a signed offer, a committed offer, because we all want the new up and comer, or we all want the established person that we're going to be able to sit there and sing along with every song they know. But the ones that are really intriguing are the ones that you think are up and comers. The problem with the up and comers is they're most likely going to get snagged by a huge national act to have them open for them out there somewhere. Those national acts really don't get their tours lined up until about this time of year. They're doing that in the last month and even right now. So if I start putting offers in on somebody that I think's hot or could be hot for the next year, if I start putting offers in September or October right after the fair's over, then it's just going to sit on their desk in Nashville. I know it. Chris knows it. I've been through it enough. I know what's going to happen. So you sit and wait, and you wait, and you wait, and you're not going to hear from them until January or February, because they're sitting there waiting on Jason Aldean or Miranda Lambert or Luke Bryan or Carrie Underwood. They're waiting on some of these big timers to call them to go out on tour with them.
Hey, speaking of big timers, Dave, we have some big timers who sponsor Viewpoint, and we're going to spend some time acknowledging them and recognizing them right now. Go right ahead, Mr. Reich. I'm back live in the studios here at WLCN, high on County Road 2250, also known as Lazy Row. There's nothing lazy about this operation. Mr. Ash cracks a pretty good whip, make sure everybody's up to date. Our guest this morning, a special young man, this young fellow, very, very, very well known and recognized family in community from over there in Orrin Township. As I said, I think of Orrin Township, and I think of the Irwins, and I think of the Randolph family. And as it turned out, they became one, as it turned out. The subject of this morning's conversation is the Logan County Fair and the entertainment attached there too. Mrs. Busby thought it'd be a good idea, and she's exactly right. She thought maybe the people like to know how we get these entertainment acts that appear before the grandstand out there. A lot more sophisticated today than it was a few years ago. My young friend, whom I miss still today, Jack Bushel, had Dave Irwin's job, and they booked in acts, and in those days the name Homer and Jethro was a big draw, and they couldn't get a crowd in Burton View today. Yeah. So Dave, as we sit here talking about the Logan County Fair, 1937, I think I'm correct, and that was the beginning of the second county fair we had. The original county fair was right up here in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And so the old boys had got together. They were smart enough to pick the week before the state fair. And that enabled them not only to get good bookings for entertainment, but the better livestock and the better horses. And we always had excellent harness races out here, the pacers and the trotters. And the Society Horse Show was a big thing. As I alluded to a while ago, you dressed up for that. And the dry cleaners in this town really liked that idea because that helped them a lot. But I had a beast above the name of Francis Irwin Crum, who was a ringmaster. But the announcer was a nonpareil Don Splain. Mm-hmm. A wonderful man.
Stentorian voice.
Oh, he knew his business, and he knew about what his talking about on the horses. And Mr. Crum, as a ringmaster, would give him instructions from the judges, and he would tell them to rack on, please, or 3-gate or whatever. And Don's Plain could just mellow that into the crowd so they knew exactly what was going on. Don's Plain was a master announcer for that, and a fine man too. As you think about those old boys, any names come up, Mr. Irwin, out of the past?
Well, W.G. Colburn, of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, you had to bring him up. He's an Orrin Township.
He was an Orrin Township fella, yeah.
And Earl Lehman did a lot of announcing for them.
Yeah. Mr. Lehman, Mr. Colburn, Dean Bruns was around forever. He's not with us anymore. No. Lauren Profrock, a lot of those names have been around forever and ever, and now Mr. Mosky, in my opinion, can add his name to that legacy as well. And so Mike's still around. There's nobody that knows any more about that fairgrounds and where things are and how things are to operate, and he's just a real asset to the fairgrounds.
Well, one about things about a fair is cleanliness, and that's never ever one time has ever come up as far as I remember. The Logan County Fair always they saw to it, the managing boys. That place was always kept clean.
Yeah, I think the slogan was Illinois' cleanest and finest county fair. And,
that was how they'd advertise themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're so lucky to have a lot of people to help sponsor the fair, donate to the fair. The bathrooms down there on the north end were a needed and welcomed addition. And then the bathrooms down at the other end, the hospital and the foundation have been a big part of partnering with the county fair on that end. So got a brand new set of bathrooms down there attached to right behind the Lincoln stage on the north end of the exhibition buildings. And the market has been a big deal in the last several years, and having the market open and the new bathrooms right there, and just the locally grown produce.
That
and
farmers market has been a big thing since they opened that up.
Oh yeah, it's been a wonderful partnership with the hospital and the foundation, the hospital foundation, to do that. So there's a lot of people that work their tails off and still do to make that happen as well. So.
And there's some nice great-grandmothers, and so in some cases maybe great-great-grandmothers. There are still exhibitors out there.
You bet.
Going back as far as I can remember. Almost.
Well, that's how you get the good stuff. Is to get the older they are, the better the bakery is. In my opinion. So.
We, as you sit here, do you have everybody lined up for your entertainment? Or is it just a matter you think you do, and that could change any time?
No, I think I do. I don't have permission to announce that yet. I'd love to do that today, but I can't just yet. But I do have entertainment lined up for the 2022 Logan County Fair. I spent about 9 hours on Monday. We had the day off at the bank for Martin Luther King Day, so that's a day that I have historically taken to sit in front of my computer and my phone, and either via text or emails or phone calls, and started really concentrating on lining up sponsorships for the concert and the county fair for this year. So spent the better part of the day on Monday doing that, and just this morning I was texting back and forth with my security guy, and my caterer, and making sure they have me on the schedule for August 6th. So just trying to, it's early, snow on the ground and cold outside. Nobody's thinking about the county fair right now, but there's always something to be thinking about and always something to be doing when you're with that concert, as far as the concert and the county fair are involved. So been busy making sure those people have August 6th on their calendars, so when that day comes we have security personnel and sponsors to help put on the show, and a caterer to help feed the people that'll be in the VIP area. And oh, by the way, I do want to mention, and I've been on this program before and I harp on it, and I've said it with Bob's show at the fair before too, but the sponsors are so important. I mean, when I think the most tickets we've ever sold might have been in 2014 for the Thomas Rhett show. He's gone on to blow up since then. That was one we got lucky and got him on the way up, and but I think we sold 2,200 tickets or something that year, and so that's when it was still over in front of the grandstand. But if we were selling tickets for $20 a piece, or I think $20 a piece at that time. So if you take 2,200 tickets times $20 a piece and you do the math, and I'm going to sit here and tell you that I'll have in excess of $100,000 in this show this year before it's all over with. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out there's no way that the county fair and the board could put on a show of this magnitude without a whole bunch of sponsors' help. So we're very appreciative of each and every one of them, regardless of the amount. Every amount helps, and we sure are very thankful for all of them. And I would encourage everybody to go out there to the Logan County Fair's website, and you can pull up and see who they all are. And
LoganCountyFair.com, would that do it?
LoganCountyFairIL.com.
Illinois.il.com.
Yeah, I think way back when we first started hitting the internet and the homepage, I think we quickly realized that LoganCountyFair.com will get you I think it's Ohio, Kentucky or Ohio, one of the two, but it won't get you to the Logan County Fair, Illinois.
So you have to have that IL designation.
Yeah, so
648-5510. Our guest this morning, Mr. Dave Irwin, very established young gentleman from Warren Township, over the Beeson Way. Happens to come from a heck of a great family, and we're very pleased to have a hometown boy with us. Dave is responsible for a lot of things that go on at the Logan County Fair, many of which you don't even realize that he gets done. But primarily, he's the reason we have the entertainment acts booked in front of the grandstand, and that's a needed income producer. Has you ever do you ever have a chance to go to Las Vegas at all? They have that annual convention out there.
Yeah. I've never been to the convention you're speaking of, but I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. My promoter, Chris Hesse, that I was talking about earlier, I know he goes to that convention every year. Mm-hmm. I've heard talk in the past of maybe W.G. Colburn and some of those guys. I think Mike Mosky has told me in the past that those guys used to go out there occasionally. We did just have this last weekend. We had the Illinois County Fair convention down in Springfield, and
named the new county fair queen.
Yes, they did, and I was not able to make it down there, but I heard Queen Caroline here from Logan County did a fabulous job. So congratulations to her and all the gals that helped with that. I talk about this being kind of an all-year thing, lining up the concert and stuff, and I talk a lot about how hard a lot of people work, but those Fair Queen gals, boy, nobody knows what they go through the whole week, the whole month before leading up to the Logan County Fair Queen pageant, the practices and the time, and the stage, and getting all the just everything ready for it, and getting those gals ready, practice interviews and speeches and all kinds of things. And then after they win, I know Queen Caroline has been very busy for the whole last month doing mock interviews, and I think they had 40 different local people go out to the Hampton Inn and put her through the paces as far as mock interviews and what she was to expect down there this last weekend for that state contest. So, there's a lot of volunteers that the county fair has, all the way from the shows to the exhibits to the Fair Queen pageant to the concert to the horse races and tractor pulls. Most all those people you see out there all week long aren't getting a paycheck from anybody. They're out there because they love the fair. They want to see it go on. All those superintendents for every department. There's lots of responsibilities and time that everybody puts in, and we're just, as a fair, I'm not on the fair board anymore, but I think I can speak for the fair board in saying, a big thank you to all those people, because without them, you just can't make a week-long, I guess it's a fair, I'd call it a festival, but you can't make a week-long celebration go on like that without a whole bunch of people involved, and they're dedicated. They're the same people. You see a lot of the same people year after year, and we're always looking for help. So if somebody wants to donate some time and help set up for that concert or whatever, why, please call me. I'd love to talk to you.
Mr. Irwin, it occurs to me that down through the years, the harness racing profession, when it is that, has changed down through the years. And it used to be pretty easy to book in a number of pacers and trotters. Today, I suspect that you're searching a lot to find horses and owners who are willing to come here.
Yeah, I think
the purses aren't that big.
Well, we have the purses for the Sunday race is the first day of the fair, which, by the way, will be July 31st. So I think this year's fair dates are July 31st through August 7th. And so the Downstate Classic is the set of horse races that are on that Sunday, that first Sunday of the fair. And there have been a lot of years where those purses have been over $60,000 for those races.
Oh my, that's big.
And
money.
I think probably in the last few years, I'm going to stick my neck out there and say that they've been over $45,000 to $50,000 in the last few years. So
Lincoln won.
they've been very, very good horse races with good quality horses that go on to bigger things at the state fair the next week, and then the next 2 days, Monday and Tuesday that you're talking about, those races are what they call overnight races. So they enter, I think there's a 72-hour entry box, so they have to enter 3 days ahead of time or 2.5 days ahead of time, and to get into those races. So,
well, that's a very sophisticated business, though. It really is.
It's very sophisticated,
and it's very expensive. I'm sure it's just monumentally when they used to put a horse on a track for.
Well, the thing about the horse race that a lot of people don't know, I've always been interested in those harness races since I was little, and I've gotten to know some of the people in the industry, and buying the horse is one thing. That's the easy part. Your checkbook may not like it very well, but that's the easy part. Sit at the sale and pick one out with a trusted trainer or horse owner or another person in the industry who might be able to help you out a little bit and guide you on a pedigree of what one that they think, number one, might look good on paper, but also looks good standing in front of you in the stall. But once you get them bought, then you've got, if they're a baby, if they're a yearling, buy them as a yearling, they're not racing already, you've probably got 6, 7, 8 months of training and taking care of that horse and jogging it every day.
Daily. When they eat daily and big time.
Feeding them, cleaning stalls, washing them daily, and training them daily. Those guys are down there right now. It's fairly chilly out there, in my opinion, today, but tomorrow it's going to be downright cold. But if you go down to the state fairgrounds tomorrow, I guarantee you there'll be 100 horses get jogged tomorrow down there every day, and except for Sundays. They go in and feed them and clean the stalls on Sundays, I think, but they generally don't train them on Sundays. But about every other day of the week, you can see him down there. And
I wonder if there are any listeners out there in the air this morning that remember the name Edgar Leonard. He was quite a horse racer.
Yeah.
He was a good trainer in both pacers and the trotters.
Right.
And I also wonder how many out there know the difference between a pacer and a trotter.
Yeah, that's a good trivia question in some cases. My interest in it, I know the difference. Just to answer that question, though, a pacer, generally speaking, will go a little bit faster than a trotter. But a pacer, if you can picture a horse going by you at full speed, a pacer will have both legs on the same side of the animal going the same direction at the same time. So both the right front and the right rear are going forward at the same time, and the left side the same way. A trotter, conversely, when the right front is coming back, the right rear is coming forward. So a trotter is like this, and a pacer, the people out there on the airwaves can't see what I'm doing here in the studio, but
You pay attention, there's going to be a quiz on this at
that's right. So pacer, the legs are moving the same direction on the same side of the animal, and the trotters, the legs are And it just,
Is that too complicated for you, Judith Kay?
But no,
I think
it's
I'm better
all
confused.
deja vu all over again
Yeah.
for me. Jim and I used to work for WPRC,
Sure.
and they had quite a presence at the fair always.
oh, you bet. Yeah.
And gosh, we ate and slept the fair during Fair Week, didn't we, James? We
Well, I
sure
grew
did.
up at the fair. I grew up showing dairy cattle at the
Yeah.
fair, obviously, and so
And sleeping all night there?
yeah, Dad and Uncle John bought a little trailer for us in the beginning and parked the trailer there, and that's the first time probably I ever slept someplace else except for my home. When I was a kid, I got to go to the county fair and stay there for well, back then we stayed there for the whole week, almost 5 nights probably, but then towards the later years they went in there one day and showed and left the next. But now the dairy show is distinct now. It's gone, no
Now,
more.
it goes without saying that down through the years, the Logan County and all county fairs, for that matter, aren't successful and don't stick it out without dedicated, and I mean that word the way I said it, dedicated volunteers. And without them producing, it's not going to much happen out there in the Logan County Fairgrounds.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. That's just the fact of the matter. If you don't have the dedicated volunteers to run every department, and I'm not just talking about the livestock down at one end. You know, you got photography and jewelry and crops and art and just everything that's down. There's so much down there in those exhibition buildings back behind the grandstand there. You just take some time and walk through there. There's some exhibitors there that are exhibiting their products and maybe trying to sell you something, and but there's also all kinds of different art there and exhibitors from
I'll
if you
test your young memory. Did the name Gene McKinstry mean anything to you?
you're going to get a confused look from me
Lemonade
on that
stand.
one.
He was a lemonade maker.
Oh, is that right?
McKinstry, and then Irish O'Brien. Irish O'Brien brought the food restaurants into the traveling restaurants to the fair.
Oh, okay.
And-
Yeah, those names aren't. They're probably a little
that's-
before my time.
You're too
maybe.
doggone. I keep forgetting these kids are out there all the time.
Yeah.
But in those days, the Logan County Fair got its start by going around selling shares of stock to business people.
Yes.
And for instance, my father was one of them way back years ago, and he saw fit that he thought that was a good thing, and he bought X number of shares of stock, and that's how they got that thing kicked off.
Yeah.
And to this day, as we sit here in front of these microphones, Mr. Irwin, there are a lot of families out there who got stock they don't even know they had.
Well, I know Mike Mosky had a it's a concentrated effort every year, but there was
I won't give him ours.
there was really a concentrated effort, I know, several years back to try to clean up that list, because there is a lot out there, and then somebody passes away and you don't find it in the lockbox, or you don't find it in the desk drawer, and it's just a constant battle trying to stay on top of the stock and the certificates and who has them, who owns them, and those kind of things, and it's no different for the fair than any other organization. It's an important part of keeping on top of it. But for the fair that happens one time per year versus say an grain elevator or any other cooperative that has stock like that, they're kind of in front of those people a lot more and doing business with them a lot more. Other than coming to the fair and volunteering and spending your time and exhibiting whatever you are there for, there's not a lot of business to be conducted with the Logan County Fair, and so those people with those stock certificates are sometimes hard to run down, and when somebody passes away, you do your best to stay on top of it, and you hope the families come forward, but that's not always the case.
And David, the Logan County Fair, and this I'm just kind of thinking off the top right now, but I think it kind of represents a slice of them. Logan County Fairs, like Logan County Fairs, the country over, kind of represent a slice of Americana at its best. Got the little old ladies out there showing their jellies and their pies and so forth, and proud as punch from them. And it's a big thing. And it's kind of a slice of America.
It is, and I like to, in my attempts to gather up sponsors for the concert, I like to call it the social event of the summer. That concert at the county fair on Saturday night. A lot of people enjoy that VIP area that's there. That's one of the perks of being a sponsor of the concert and the fair, is that you're afforded entry into that VIP area. A lot of people enjoy that, and it's become a hot ticket. And but the fair in general, I think, could be called the social event of the summer. I mean, it's the biggest ag event in Logan County that I know of in the summertime, and or any time of year for that matter. But the concert is a good place for good food and a few beverages, and you can sit and mingle plenty ahead of time for the concert, and then also enjoy some good music too.
Do you have any final questions, Mrs. Busby? Because I
don't even have a first question.
I've frozen her out because I'm so interested in the county fair, and I apologize. I have to make a public apologize to her. I've usurped this mic, and I apologize to you because the county fair is, I was a kid. I graduated from grade school in 1937, and that's the year it started. And I remember Wilbur Lehman got a bunch of us kids to sell programs, and I think they were 10 cents a piece. And that's where I became an entrepreneur. The first day I finally asked if they had any pencils to sell. Well, I didn't have any pencils, and I went to Kresge's that night, and I bought a bunch of pencils, and the next day I sold them for double the money.
There you go.
So, your final question, Dave, do you have a wrap-up, sir?
Well, I just, again, thank you for your time. Thank you for having me today, and it's fun to talk about the fair and everything that goes on with the fair. Of course, my emphasis is a little bit geared towards Saturday night, but there's so much other stuff to do there. So I just encourage everybody to come out. Again, those dates this year, July 31st through August 7th. And again, patronize those sponsors. Find out who they are. Go up and tell them thank you for their sponsorship and for making the fair in general, but also the concert able to happen because of them. So I can't say enough how appreciative I am of the sponsors that are on board to help us year after year.
Thank you, Dave Irwin, very much for being with us this morning. There's a song that goes, but the whole country's talking about the Jones boys. The whole county's talking about the Irwin boys. Thank you, David.
Thank you.